Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Wealth for Generations. We are going on episode 5, and I am your host, Mr. Elijah Lee, and I am joined here with my co host, Mr. Patrick,
Morning.
and our wonderful interview for today, Mr. Johnny.
Howdy.
How's it going? So, just real quick, I like to get the show started with a little verbal introduction and a little note, real quick. So, let me just tell you guys hello and welcome to Wealth Generations in association with Habari Entertainment. I'm your host, Elijah, along with my co host here and my interview for today. Wealth for Generations is a platform for local entrepreneurs to promote their business and discuss options they have or haven't taken to create wealth for the next generation. I, the host, as well as any of my co hosts, are not certified in any financial, medical, or legal field. This show is for to express our experiences and our ideas on the matters. Wealth for Generation highly recommends researching any information from the show and you make your own decision in the end. All righty. So, with that being said, I would like to jump into our show today. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about tattoos, if you couldn't tell from our lovely guest over here with his body art over here. Um, Today, we are going to do it a little different, like I did last time. When we do have an interview, we're going to mess up or mix up the segment just a little bit. So, today, we're going to start with our wealthy wisdom. And this guy, he's actually a pretty interesting guy. You might know him, Johnny, since you are in the tattoo world. Me personally, I didn't know about the guy, but it's quite interesting. This guy is a tattoo artist who created tattoos for many years, along with unique tattoo machines. He was the frontman for Electric Crutch. He was born in 1944. He's 78. He's a master of fine arts. He brought modern tattoo art into Soho galleries. He's penned 15 books and created movies on art detailing the history and evolution and soul of ink. He has inked rock stars like Kiss, and most notably, he is pers- he persistently fought the tattoo bans that plagued New York City, including risking jail time by inking porn star Annie Sprinkle on the steps of Metropolitan Museum of Art in the mid 70s. Does that guy sound familiar at all to you?
It does.
He sounds like a freaking icon in the ink industry, in the ink
Yeah,
world,
people
man.
don't really understand the influence of the band in New York. That band bled into everything else
Oh,
too.
the
It wasn't just New
electric.
York. Yeah, all of the Midwest ended up getting a ban. It stopped guys like W.R. King from tattooing, stopped all kinds of people in the Midwest and stuff like that too. That bled into everything. Oklahoma City actually just let up their band in I want to say it was like 2016. Google that, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
crazy that people don't understand the influence of the band that happened in New York because New York was the epicenter. It was the language of America.
Yeah, and I didn't even really know that there was a band when I started
Was
looking
that one
into
of the
this.
Moskowitz who did that?
The person,
Yeah.
his guy, or actually, what I have his actual name. Shoot, where's his actual name at? I forget. Where? Darn it. He goes by Spider Web.
Oh yeah, Spider Webb's been passed away. Yeah. He was also
Oh, he
influential
passed
Flash
away.
painter. Yeah.
Oh,
Spider Web is deceased, I believe. I'm
I thought I saw,
83%
but it could
positive.
be. I could have had the wrong information, but I thought,
Wikipedia is wild.
yeah.
Just Wikipedia says so.
Well, no, actually,
Yeah.
I found on Facebook.
Oh,
I thought I
all
found
right.
something, but it could be
Yeah.
a fan.
Yeah,
It could be fan made or something.
when I worked at Luke Air Force Base, we had Spiderweb Flash in the shop. That was a more old school shop that I worked at, and they had stuff from him. He was like more the 70s and 80s biker era of tattoos, but yeah, he's a surly dude.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was a band in the 50s?
He was the
The
front
band
man.
came, I believe, in the end of I think the 60s maybe.
Yeah, okay.
The end of yeah, around the end of it.
All right,
Was
that
around
makes sense because dang, I've never heard of no shit like that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know either. I honestly just started trying to look for a good quote from a notable tattoo artist, and I just
Yeah.
went down the rabbit hole. I was like, oh, wait a second, there's this. Oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Like, and I just kept going. But I'm kind of getting away from the subject.
Yeah,
So
no.
the point of going down this little bit of a rabbit hole about Mr. Spider Web is I wanted to quote him today. And when I was looking into him, I found this quote by him that's really, really awesome and stayed with me. So he said that tattooing, when understood in its entirety, must be seen as a religious act. The human being brings forth images from the center of the self and communicates them to the world. Fantasy is embodied in reality, and the person is made whole. So that really, I really, really like that one because he's not that I'm really a religious person, but
Right.
it makes me further understand the ink world. Like I said, I didn't
Yeah.
know about the
Well,
band and I
tattooing,
didn't know
people
how.
don't know this, but tattooing's the oldest profession next to being a concubine. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? There's only one profession older than ours. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Tribally, we've always had a place in society, and people strongly equate it, to the Anglo version of it, but it's not. This every tribe you've ever
Mhm.
seen that ever existed has some form of tattooing, and
Yes.
that's the cool thing about it too. Is like it really is something that's um, it's a million ways to do one thing. A
Yes.
million ways to do
Yeah.
one thing, and
It's
that's why like, I
crazy.
laugh when you see newer tattooers and they come and they're like, "Oh, this is the way this is the new way to do it. This is the right way to do it. This is any other person is doing it is doing it." And then you're like, "You don't know anything, son. You're so young." And I did it too. Whenever I first got, I was like, "Oh, well, I know the way."
Yeah,
You don't know
yeah,
nothing.
yeah. That's how we all are though, man, when
Yeah,
you're trying to get to
yeah.
be, one of the best,
True
you know?
knowledge is just knowing you really don't know anything. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. When
you
you're
know.
first in there and you're trying to get in and you are hungry, you wanna act like you do know. But, just like Johnny said, like, you get to the point, though, where you get true wisdom, and the true wisdom is accepting the fact that you don't know and
Yeah,
accepting that you are still learning. You are still a student of the game in whatever
yeah.
game you're trying to, professionalize or not even necessarily professionalize, because how can you professionalize life?
Yeah. Well, and I always try to tell people, like, don't think of your life so monetarily because you'll disappoint yourself because there's always more numbers. There's whatever it is that you're trying to accumulate, there's
Mhm.
always more of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah, yeah.
mean? Make your life experience, man. I cannot emphasize enough. Like, be rich in cultural acceptance, be rich in cultural experience, be rich in
Mhm.
like understanding because those things they're the stories you're gonna tell. Stories are what's important. They're what you have when you have nothing. When you're left
Right.
in the old folks' home and you're just rattling teeth,
Mhm.
that's what you're gonna have. All this emphasis on, monetary stuff or things in the physical. You and I,
Yeah.
we've been a bunch of places together. We know
Yeah,
that's just
man.
not as important. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
There's experiences that we've had that
That
they're
just transcend
yeah, I
and they
wouldn't
just
trade them for a
for
Bentley and
yeah.
all the gold teeth in my mouth, and I want gold teeth
Seriously.
in my mouth.
And, like, if it's and my household knows, man, it's something I say all the time, like, one of the meanings of human life is to create memories.
Right.
And it's just like you said, like, but I mean, I mean it on a grand scale, though, on such a grand scale. When I say it, a lot of people don't understand, but I mean, like, down to the minuscule thing of, like, if
Mhm.
you don't remember where your keys are to
Yeah.
go to work the next day, if you don't remember the code to your alarm when you get
He's
home.
gonna sell us some ginkgo biloba in a minute, guys. I'm just kidding.
So if you take the ginkgo biloba, it helps your memory, though, and you can just, use
There's
my
a chai
promo
tea
code
you can
here.
use for this.
It should be popping up around here, my promo code.
Yeah, I love it.
No, just joking. But yeah, man, in my household, man, it's something I say all the time. Like, one of the points of human life is to create memories, and
Yeah.
it's so much more.
I think that's why we met so many times intermittently and not as directly, and that's why we always kind of gravitated back towards each other because
Mhm.
you have such a positive way of understanding any situation. We've been in situations doing shows where it was like everything is unideal, and we still just have this super great time, and people will
Mhm.
later reference those times. I'm like, if you only knew below the surface how we could have ruined that whole day.
Right,
If
right.
our mentalities were different, we could have ruined that whole day. You would have been like,
Definitely.
"What a terrible experience."
Seriously, yeah, man. Because sometimes you just that's what it is. You just gotta get immersed in the experience
Yeah, and to
to
learn from
enjoy
it too,
it.
and to
Yeah.
learn from everything. I mean, I think it sounds so corny. I feel like such a yoga instructor whenever I say like, "Dude, there's so much positivity in everything you can do. Everything you can do.
Seriously.
Everything that you think is bad, it's not that bad. It's really just a lesson. It's
Mhm.
a dog-eared page to turn back to and reference." Like, I'm not doing that again.
Yes, there's always something to learn in whether it's a positive outcome or a negative outcome.
Right,
There's
right.
always something to learn from it. And honestly, like Johnny said, like we go way back. We could just chat
Yeah,
forever,
yeah.
right now. But like I said, we got the segments, and I want to do something. One of the segments that's really important to me, which is We Building Boy. So on the We Building Boy segment, what we do is we like to highlight a business or an entrepreneur who is doing their thing. So today on We Building Boy, that's why we have Mr. Johnny here, or as you can find him on Instagram, Mr. Guantanamo Bay.
Underscore.
Underscore. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, don't forget the underscore because I was trying to find you last night to steal some pictures and stuff
Yeah.
through the internet, and you were not popping. I'm like, am I spelling it wrong? Like, what the heck is? And then when I looked on my phone and saw it, and I was like, oh, the underscore. But the
Yeah.
underscore popped right up to the top. There's like,
You know how
50
blown away
million.
I was that somebody already had that name? That came from an inside joke at a party almost 20 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And I was blown away. I was like, all right, well, they're definitely gonna have John.
So yes, let's introduce our interview professionally real quick. So Mr. John Casey, I like to call him, or the beard when I'm trying to show him off. He started tattooing at the ripe young age of 25.
Yeah, 13 years ago.
Under the talented Jason Smith, Tony Ramos or Ramos?
Ramos. Yeah.
Ramos, and
He's getting out of prison here in about a year and a half.
oh yeah,
Yeah, watch out, tattoo people.
tattoo people gonna have some trouble on their hands, man. Another legend coming out. Also, and then Brian or Brian.
Brian Regan, better known as B.
Okay.
DeVille. God rest him and Jason are no longer with us now.
I wasn't sure if there was a T or not.
It is, yeah, Brian Regan.
Oh, okay. Just
Yeah.
double checking. Brian Regan. His apprenticeship was at a shop called Ink Skin Gallery. After that, he followed fellow artist Tony and B. Bryant to Ink Editions in Glendale.
Addictions. That probably got spell corrected. They don't like when you write addiction. I got an Apple product.
And that was in Glendale, right outside Luke Air Force, which is the shop that you mentioned a little bit ago, right?
Yeah. That shop's awesome. It's got so much good history. It was run by a vet, Air Force vet, who unfortunately he passed away too. He ended up dying of end-stage liver failure. A lot of tattoo artists, which good point on health is they just don't take care of it themselves mentally or physically, which I'm trying to cut a different path myself. I got a family and a super positive life, trying to set a different example in tattooing.
That's another reason why I wanted to kind of bring you on. You're kind of having a little turning point in your own life, and I'm not in the world as much as you are, but I've been in a lot of different I would say environments in the street world.
Yeah.
And I know that the majority, or well, I don't want to say majority nowadays, but stereotypically, a lot of the heavy ink people are coming from a street background.
Yeah, well, because we come from a primal culture, you know what I mean? People would love to equate it to prison, but really it's tribalism. It's people seeing each other, and it's stereotypically been people who can't live within the confines of normal, and that's definitely extended. It's not the same way now, but that's why it has that negative connotation, and it's because those people were, just like any working class people at that, economic level, where they were rough, you know what I mean? But if you looked at any trade that was in that same economic bracket, they were rough too. It didn't matter if you were HVAC dude, like you were rough, and you might be used to talking differently on a job or talking differently. I mean, I curse so much,
Oh,
and
man,
I get around people and they're like, "Oh Lord," you know what I mean? But
yeah, man. I mean, I was a line cook for many years.
Oh, yeah.
And that was like a running joke, like we had on the line in the kitchen. It's like, if you can't curse and talk shit, then you don't need to be on the line. It's part of the requirements.
Yeah.
Like, but sorry, don't want to get off topic. So rounding up the little quick bio for Mr. Johnny, he ended up in the end after unfortunately the owner
There's
passed
no
away.
end. That's a weird way to
I'm
say
sorry,
that.
not in the end.
I'm currently
he is currently
tattooing
no,
amazing,
he is
way better
planning
stuff
on
than ever.
staying at Own Inc. forever.
Yeah.
Eventually, they're gonna sell him the 91st spot, and he's gonna be there forever. He's gonna keep the name, and then
I
it's gonna
love
be
that
Own
neighborhood.
Inc. Johnny.
Yeah. I grew up in Maryville, and that's not far from where I grew up. So I love that neighborhood. I love servicing people in that neighborhood. They understand the way I talk. They're not incensed by me or anything. And I'm a weird personality. I got my queer kinks and all the weird stuff that I talk about. It's hard to put on the ear of somebody who's not from the neighborhood we grew up in, who's not exposed to the things that I am in, and they're part of my daily regimen of talking. I worked other places, and it definitely, I worked in Youngstown. It was weird. It was weird. Yeah, because it's like a half retirement community, and then also is like kind of like some suburban version. It's weird.
And then I bet it was it might have been well not totally, but there might have been a little bit of adjustment at Luke, right? Dealing with the military.
Yeah, the one thing that I always say this too. All my clients know this. The one thing I like about them is directness. I don't like to.
Oh yeah,
I don't like to be pandered to. Yeah, because I feel like there's a disingenuous niceness that came with a lot of the influx of like California natives. That's not really. It's a time wasting nicety where it's like, I like that, but here I'm going to guard your feelings for a long time before we can get to the point. And I love this about the East Coast too. When I meet people from the East Coast, direct, and it's because there's a respect for your time as an individual, and they know like you're busy, you got things to do. I don't want to be here pressing you if this is not of your interest. And that at Luke Air Force Base was great. Everybody was just let's if you can't help me, then let's get me out the door. I don't need to be here absorbing you. You know what I mean? And draining your life.
Right.
And I love that. And I like that. I like people, most of my clientele know I have a very definitive style. I've been doing it for 13 years. So people know, and they know what to come in and ask for. And they know what I'm going to be cool with. And then the newer people, they get onto it pretty quick because I'm very direct. I got that from Luke, Just be direct with people, be honest.
Yep.
So would you say by working there versus other locations has actually made you better?
Yeah, well, I don't know about style wise because I did a lot of
side, maybe more.
Yeah, but on the understanding, that people's time is precious, and you're not doing them any favors by sugarcoating it. I think that really gave me a leg up, and I think it's why I have a specific clientele is because there's a lot of people who pander. They have that fake nicety where they're like, yeah, I can do that. Maybe we'll just and mine is not, it's more direct. I have such a huge body of work that I can point out anything. I'll be like, if you wanted something like that for me, this is the style it would be. And that helps.
Yeah. I don't want to be an old head, but I think what it is, and not making excuses for anybody, but I think we're too afraid to offend anybody. Like, oh, like, and just saying like, I don't like it, like do it this way or whatever the case is.
Right.
Everybody's just too afraid just to be like, to say what they mean.
And people too, I think, people just don't realize that money is cyclical and that you're not holding on to that. There's going to be somebody else. If you're wasting your time doing stuff you don't want to do, you're missing the things you do want to do.
Yeah.
And you only get so much time.
And I'm big on it. Time is important. Like, don't waste my time.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, and that's a respect thing too. I feel like it's a sign of real respect. You know what I mean? Real respect is treating somebody with the maturity that you want to be treated with.
Yeah.
You know? And even if that means not being the guy to do their tattoo or missing out on $300 or $400, that never hurts my feelings. You know what I mean? I think that's important.
Yeah.
Very much so. Very much. So, sorry. So you're saying that as far as the Luke experience, a lot of the military being that they're militant, because I remember my dad was in the Air Force, and
Mine
he's
too.
pretty So definitely you could already gravitate towards it, even if you knew it or not.
Yeah,
when you got there.
yeah, oh yeah.
So, but yeah, that's definitely true because as I do more business things, it is a lot easier when you're just like, you know what, this is what I need.
Right.
You can't do that? Okay. Hey, can you do this? This is what I need.
Right.
You can do that? Okay, boom, let's go.
There's only so many streets and avenues, and if I'm on the wrong street or I'm on the wrong avenue, it's going to take me time to get off of this. So the less we're arguing whether I'm on the right street or avenue, the quicker I have to correct my path. You know what I mean? And I think, it's a courtesy I like to have extended to me,
Right.
And I also think there's nurturing too. I don't want to make it sound like I come in and like, you don't want pinups? Roll on, player. Like that's not
that's what I do.
Yeah,
Kick rock.
No, I like interpreting people's stuff. I love to hear people out. There's a window in tattooing that you don't get unless maybe you're a barber or an esthetician or something like that, where you get an hour with somebody straight, or you're on a podcast. You don't get that with people a lot. My ability to conversate with people is unmirrored because I've for 13 years just been talking.
That's
Never
all
shut
you
up.
just chat
Yeah.
with people. Like, don't worry, I'm gonna just stab you with this pin and chat away.
Well,
So
and it's,
about
you
that
know,
dog.
well, they're also, they're getting something traumatic, and they're getting something emblematic, and you have to be the curator of what happens. And
Yeah.
you can take something that's super sentimental to them, and you can cheapen the whole experience by being, a hot bag of wind, and just
Right.
not seeing it for what it is for them. Because we have a tendency to take our experience and make it everyone's experience. We project it onto people.
Mhm.
And sometimes I think the best thing you can do is just shut up and hear someone, let them go. And sometimes people just got to shut up and let me go.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
man.
that's a big value. Like, we're thinking about, like, when I got my tattoos and stuff like that, that therapy, I mean, that value in itself, just being able to go and just kind of just kick the shit.
Right.
You know
Well,
what I
and I
mean? It's
think you
just,
make that connection too with the person you're being tattooed by. You kind of choose them not just for art. If
yeah,
it was just for art, you'd be on the waiting list, and in a year or two, you'd have a Rembrandt.
yeah.
But the reality is, like, that goes back to that thing about tribalism. You're like, no, we have so many of the same things. It's going to be a joy to sit down and hear your life
Mhm.
experience and mirror my life experience to what yours has been, and those comparing and contrasting. That's community, and we love community. Everybody loves community, unless you're unless you're a hermit, or something. You want to be with people. People are why we do
Mhm.
whatever we do.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a human trait. Like
Yeah.
we need to congregate, whether it be one or two people or
Right.
it be in a community of millions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a human thing. Um, so right now I think we're probably gonna be almost time for a break.
Yeah, let's take a
Yeah.
quick one. Yeah.
Just but just real quick, if you do want to get in contact with Johnny here, he is located at the Ohm Inc., which is located at 1805 North 91st Avenue, Phoenix, Arizona, 85037. And
That's
at
Sweet 100.
Suite 100. All righty. And after that note, we're gonna take a quick break.
Give me a second.
After
Habari Entertainment Films present There's Only One Name for News with Damon and Iesha. Habari Live Podcast. Habari Entertainment, a race against time. On a quest for glory. Habari News Weekly, HabariEntertainment.com. Catch us for more. Visit us, HabariEntertainment.com.
welcome back. And we are coming back for our next segment as Johnny slowly. We are going to jump into our health is wealth next. Our health is wealth segment, which is going to be talking about healthy options. Today, from Miss Jess, who isn't here today, who's our health is wealth expert, she has sent me with a little recipe for ice cream. So, is it working now? So I'm gonna give you guys a quick little recipe since it is summertime. The kids are out on school break, get their home. Give you guys a nice little vegan option. Of course, our household is vegan, so we're gonna offer you guys vegan options, which are in the end healthier choices. But if you don't want to go that route, you can always substitute the ingredients. But with this ice cream, you want to start with it's a rich, creamy vegan ice cream using organic ingredients. This can be a fun project to get your kids involved with. If you have children, eating healthy can be fun too. So, the base for this ice cream, you will start with freeze an ice cube tray, 1 can of coconut milk, and then 1 can of coconut cream. You'll take 2 frozen bananas. You'll add all that into a blender with a 1/4 cup of raw honey. and then a half a teaspoon of non-alcoholic vanilla extract, a half a teaspoon of salt, and then you'll blend all of that until you get a creamy consistency. Now you can have some fun with the base. So that would be the main base. That would be basically like your vanilla ice cream. So real quick, I'm not gonna go through all the measurements, but I'll go through the ingredients again. This is gonna be on my lady and I our Instagram page on Delicious Dishes 602. So if you want to get your own copy and get a better look at the actual ingredients and everything like that, you can go on the Instagram page, look it up on the Instagram page, and it'll have the whole thing out right there. Because I know listening to me with the breaks and everything, it might be a little confusing. So Delicious Dishes 602, all one word, all traditional spelling. So for the ingredients for the base, you're gonna get coconut milk, you're gonna have bananas, you're gonna have honey, you're gonna have vanilla extract, non-alcoholic, of course, teaspoon of sea salt, and then you're gonna blend all that up until you get a creamy consistency, and that'll be your base, your like vanilla ice cream. And then here comes the fun. So we can do all kind of different flavors. You can let's see what we have here. She says you can add cacao powder and peanut butter and make like a chocolate peanut butter ice cream. You could add frozen strawberries to the base and have a vanilla strawberry ice cream. You can you can do like a cinnamon, which would probably be more like a kind of like a snickerdoodle kind of flavor. That sounds bomb actually. You can soak some dates for about an hour along with some almonds and add that in and have a sweet kind of almond flavored. You can have peppermint essential oil with cacao bits. So that would be like a almost like a mint chocolate chip kind of flavor, which I'm not big on chocolate chip, but I know a lot of people out there love their mint chocolate chip. And that are just some examples on how you can make your own. You can even pack it with extra protein and omegas by adding hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds, cashews, or your any of your other favorite nut butters besides the peanut butter. And then it'll be a healthy ice cream that tastes amazing too. And you can do it all with your family. It'll be nice and easy. You just put it in the blender. Just make sure you have a good blender though. You don't want to take that little like $20 blender from Walmart.
Not
You
the
know,
Sunbeam.
nah, not the
Oh,
not the
man.
Sunbeam. Nope. It's gotta have a little bit of power. Not
Got
nothing
some torque.
crazy, but yeah, it's gotta have a little bit of power and mix it all up. And then, like you said, like you can have the kids involved. They can add stuff, and it's a fun little treat while you guys are on summer break. And then, like again, like I said, sorry, you can find the whole recipe on our Desertland or not Desertland, our Delicious Dishes. Sorry, I have like 18 Instagrams.
I gotta get on that.
Delicious Dishes 602, which is Jess and I's. It's our food Instagram.
Yeah, you
So that
gotta
one,
follow Jess. She'll have you pooping right in no time.
yep, pooping
Y'all not pooping right.
lickety split. It'll be right out. Just but the Delicious Dishes 602 Instagram is dedicated to us cooking. So everything on there are home cooked meals that Jess and I have made, and you can also find this ice cream recipe on there. Did we was there a chance to get a spot of the picture up there? No.
No. Unfortunately, the way it's set up, I have to get access to every single picture. It's so I had to every
don't know
picture
what
I click
happened.
on, I have to get access. We just have to set it up before we go on. And we just forget about it.
Okay.
We have to set it up earlier.
Dang, that didn't happen last time. Okay, no problem. Technical
I don't know what
difficulties,
it-
but we can
yeah.
keep it rolling.
I don't know what it is. You use Google Drive to send it? Yeah. Because it's like I send you
Think so.
requests, but it's for every
single
single
one.
JPEG.
No problem. Lesson learned. Next time, do it different. Next time, do better, Elijah. Got you, sir.
Everybody's seen some tattoo fails. If you're from the neighborhood, you probably got two.
right. So, Wacky Wealth is actually going to be, I guess, canceled today. We'll skip it a little bit. We can talk a little bit about it because basically, it was just going to be some example pictures for you guys of people who actually spent money on some of these wacky fails.
Well, the
Actually, do
thing,
you?
I think there's such a responsibility. Everybody loves to like drop it on somebody who's obviously new when you're making mistakes like that. You're not
Right.
established. You didn't do that.
It's like,
Yeah.
this is my first tattoo ever.
Right. And when people put too much trust in things because they're broke, you know what I mean? I had a friend do this with mechanic work. He said, this guy's gonna rebuild my whole engine and all this stuff. And I'm like, bro, you're gonna get parts of your engine back over the next 3 years. And he's still waiting on some parts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you gotta realize where you invest your money at. And you gotta look at, I tell people all the time, don't trust these pictures on the internet. Look at
Right.
your peers who got good tattoos. That's the tell, because they're healed. The tattoos are done. There's no fancy footwork. There's no trick of the eye. There's no
Mhm.
adjusting the contrast. And every tattooer does that. We got glare. We're fighting room ambiance, yellow lighting and stuff like that, fluorescence. We're fighting. So, yeah, we're going to try and get the truest color. But the reality is when you see somebody and their stuff is dope, that's who you should get tattooed by. You know what I
Right.
mean? If more people really took personal responsibility, and you'll always hear me going out the side of my mouth because I'm old and I believe in personal responsibility so much. Do your diligence.
Right.
Don't blame him because you got regrets. Spell check, player. Spell check. We got too much technology for you to get busted stuff and to act like it was somebody else's fault that you got
Right.
busted stuff. You saw the Yelp reviews over there at the Meineke. You knew it wasn't good.
You knew it was a 3.7. It was a 3.7 and you still risked it.
Yeah.
Like
3.7 is a perfect. That's a perfect one too. Because you're like, well, it's not all bad. There's
right?
There's some
That's what
happy
I'm saying.
people.
There was some 5s 3 years ago.
When people ask me what I am, I'm gonna say 3.7. As a human, 3.7, definitely.
Like, what are your rates on Yelp? 3.7.
I actually have a perfect Yelp.
Yeah,
5 stars.
you would, because
Yeah.
you connect, and that's like when it comes down to sales, man. People are always gonna love somebody. Not to say that tattoos is strictly sales, but there is some sales involved in it, But
Anytime you're gonna take people's money, that's sales.
Yeah, man.
yeah,
Doesn't
Customer
matter what you do.
service.
yeah, it's a service. You're
I
paying
had
for
a
a service.
psychiatrist who was terrible at sales. I was like, you're not making me ever want to come back here.
right.
They keep acting like everything's Pandora's box. Well, this is a lot to open up. Is it? Can anything be a little bit to open up?
Nah, we need to unpack that.
Yeah, okay. Call U-Haul. We got a lot in here.
So have you?
I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say though,
Yeah.
the reason why I haven't never gotten tattoos is because of that. Because I couldn't imagine getting something and then tomorrow be like, dude,
Yeah.
I got that fucking tattoo. I cannot believe I did that.
Hey, but at least nowadays you can get it removed.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to pay Buzz Lightyear $500,000.
Right.
I don't recommend tattoo removal. And I think, look, there's also things that just aren't for people.
Yeah,
Like I would
yeah.
try and get my brother into basketball. I had a long go with the Celtics, just loving the Celtics. And I tried so hard. My brother's a football guy, and I just was trying to drag him into it. And I was like, you got to see Ray Allen play. He's so amazing. Just please watch. And my brother was like, I don't give a fuck. I couldn't possibly give a shit about this. Is nobody getting a concussion? Is nobody gonna have CTS?
Right.
I don't care. But yeah, so there's just things like, and that's the hardest client too. That's the client you don't want to have. You don't want somebody who needs a T-shirt and not a tattoo. Like, no, this is a T-shirt design. You got a slogan here. It's not, a timeless design.
So have you personally, because you do cover up sometimes, right?
I did a cover up yesterday. You didn't see my drag queen Jason? If you didn't, shout out and go check out drag queen Jason.
No, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah. I posted it this morning. Yeah. I love cover ups, man, because I also like I like a rags to riches story. I'm American. We love an underdog story. Like I love something being like, oh, so embarrassing,
so
and then you're like, yes, you sporting it, and you got the feeling. I love that. It's like cocaine. I feel like that's the closest thing I could tell you. That's like,
let's do another one.
Yeah, I'm like, can we stay up all night and just make amazing underdog stories? I would love that. I would love that.
Have you had any that were just like, I mean, I know it's been 13 years, so you had to have a few of them, but is there any, like, maybe one or two that are just like,
oh yeah,
grotesque? You're like, yo, we gotta cover this up right now. Like, you've been walking around with this?
Not really. I mean, whenever I was out by the base, I used to cover up, like, there'd be a lot of Southern dudes. And Southern dudes, They realize I
Getting
feel
them
bad for them.
Confederates getting
Yeah,
covered
well,
up.
they have no experience with any culture outside of their own, and they need a scapegoat because they're not well off. You know, talking about health and wealth, they're not well off, and they're just so ignorant. And then they come and they join the military. And what are you going to find in the military? Some of the
Everything.
best human beings the world's got to offer. You can't be prejudiced anymore. You got to lay it. And so whenever I worked outside there, I would cover up a lot of that Adolf knockoff shit, a lot of that fucking Rise Again, Southern Boy Will, whatever shit, all that. And, and I never, you know, like I'm old and I'm like,
Quit
I
saying
don't
it, man. We the
trust
same
you.
age.
I don't trust people who, you know, with that whole type of stuff. And I almost didn't like doing those cover-ups because I almost wanted to be like, nah, you made a
Right. You need to
commitment
sit
to
in
your
that.
ignorant ideals. Yeah, you need to. And you know, but yeah, I never really feel that way because it sounds terrible, but it's not me. And I have tattoos that I thought were bad decisions, and they've grown with me. And I'm like, it's so silly. I almost like it more than the
Mhm.
tattoos that I paid big dollars for and thought I knew what I
But
know.
that's because there's a history with it,
Yeah,
though.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
yeah. That
necessarily
isn't for
just
every.
like
That's not the general public's consensus on their bad tattoos. I got a tattoo I got in Philadelphia, and the dude blew the line out so bad. Like you can see, there's a picture of me, and you could see my face knowing what's happening because I'm a tattooer. I'm like, that's a whole lot of flesh just peeled up. It looked like Moses splitting it up for me.
Dang.
Made a path, but I love that tattoo. I love that experience.
Because
I
of
like
that trip.
yeah, the trip was amazing. And Philadelphia is part of the birth of our country. So much stuff. You don't realize until you walk around in an East Coast town. Like there's gravestones on the general streets, like by
Mhm.
the courthouse. There's just colonial gravestones. There's just all this history at the inception of you know America. And you're like, wow, this is a lot.
Yeah.
And the tattoo shop I got tattooed. Shout out to Crazy Philadelphia Eddie, who passed away a long time ago. I got a tattoo of him, a portrait on the back of my leg. But that was his shop. That was his
Mhm.
shop for, you know, 50 years. He opened it, I want to say, in like 59-ish or something. So it's cool just to be in that building. I would have got a Hello Kitty
Heck yeah.
tattoo if that's all they were selling. It wouldn't have
He's like,
mattered to
I'm
me.
doing only Hello Kitty today.
Yeah,
Cool.
sounds
You're doing
boss.
it? Cool.
Yeah, let's do it in here.
Let's do it.
So how many tattoos do you have right now?
I got at least 2 or 3. I have no idea, man. I feel so dumb whenever I try.
He
Like,
said it.
my whole torso is pretty locked up. Both my arms. Funny story. I had both my arms completely tattooed before I could drink in a bar.
Before you could drink in the
Before
bar.
I could drink in a bar. That's how into tattooing I was. I was like, I'm not trying to work any of these jobs, bitch.
Like, fuck this shit.
I'm not trying to do any of this for any of y'all. Only want to do
Well,
what
you
I
still
want
kept
to
the
do.
face clear, though. So
Yeah, you know
can
what?
still
Post
go
Malone
corporate
is
if you need
changing
to.
my mind, though, man. I see Post Malone and I'm like, you
I mean,
know what?
it was Gucci for me, man. I'm thinking
Yeah.
about getting that ice cream.
Oh yeah,
Ice
yeah.
cream cone,
Mike
right?
Tyson was the
Like right here?
first.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I love
That's
Mike
your
Tyson.
influence? You gonna get a Tyson
No, I'm
one?
just saying
like,
he was the
oh.
first that
Yeah.
I know of. That
I was gonna say, man, you might look dope with a Pac-Man.
I'm not
Just
getting
coming
He
in
has
on
some
that
other
eye.
badass tattoos. He's got
Wah, wah, wah.
he's got a Che Guevara tattoo and a
Who, Tyson? You talking about?
yeah.
I haven't
Mao
really
tattoo.
seen his other ones.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of
does have
communist
Mao, yeah.
tattoos. Like
Yeah.
he's one of the people I grew up absolutely adoring. I love Mike Tyson because like in our house we used to always buy the Tyson fight. We didn't have a whole lot of money and so, but we always watched the Tyson.
We got
fight.
that though.
Yeah.
Oh
Right?
man.
And he's so
Dude.
misunderstood too. Like
Oh,
Oh,
a
yeah.
brilliant person.
yeah, very brilliant. But it's just the
People
fact that-
younger don't realize
They
how
don't.
big of a deal
Oh,
the
Mike
Tyson
Tyson is-
fight was
Yeah.
in the early 80s. I mean the early 90s.
yeah.
How
Yeah.
big of a deal it was in like 88, 89. The
I
Tyson
compare
fight.
that in the All-Star team. The first
Dream
professional,
Team.
the dream team
The
as
Dream
they
Team,
called it.
Yeah.
That when that happened, it was everybody was paying attention to sports in a
Mhm,
way that we've
mhm.
never really had it since then. We've never had it that way.
That's real.
again.
Yeah, try to ask me who was on the last Olympic team.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
don't fucking know.
Dude,
I had no fucking idea.
The sports ratings still haven't matched what they were getting at that time.
Yeah.
It's crazy
yeah?
to think that, man, all
And
the
the population
information
is
and the
so much more, too.
internet, you would think that it would break, but no, man.
Yeah.
Basketball, Jordan was the best it's been. LeBron
Those were the
hasn't
best
even
ratings.
reached what Jordan ratings were, what people were watching.
Well, also
But
I
there
think
is
there's something about being a trailblazer too. Like you can only watch them land on the moon for the first time one time.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
and you can only watch somebody with a record like Tyson that one time when it felt like, oh my God. I watched all of Mayweather stuff too, because I love Floyd. People can say
Right,
whatever they
right.
want. I
Yeah.
love Floyd, but it didn't have that
No.
same thing.
No, it didn't.
I didn't want a
It's
Floyd
the
shirt or
flair.
training shirt.
It's the flair that we're missing. Like
I
Yeah.
don't
the
know, man.
people
It's
that
just
I
that
feel like the people that the monumental people that came next, like there was Tyson and then there was Floyd. Like Floyd is definitely a great man in his own, but
Mhm.
he took boxing and he's a real boxer. Like he plays chess out there every
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
time,
But
and he's not
I
trying to
feel as
take
though
hits.
we've
But
seen Mayweather before.
yeah,
We've
that's
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
a
Joe
Mayweather.
type of
Louis.
a
You know what
type
I'm
of fighter
saying?
like
Right.
that. Yeah,
We've
yeah.
Yeah.
seen
That's exactly what I'm saying.
he's
Like
a
no one
Sugar Ray Robinson.
when
You know what I
Tyson
mean?
came
yeah,
out.
too.
We've seen it.
Movie.
We didn't. There's never been a Mike Tyson.
Nothing.
That's
Yeah,
what,
yeah.
that's
nothing
exactly
been
what I'm
like
A
that.
saying.
child,
Yeah,
a
there hasn't
child
been another
Goliath.
person.
That's what he was. He was
Like
child
19
Goliath.
beating
Yeah.
up 40-year-old men,
Yeah, yeah.
35-year-old
Yeah,
men.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So
And
There's never
just
been that again,
speaking in a
you
way
know?
like there was no divisive journalism yet, and I think that's another thing
Yeah.
too. Like we paint Floyd in such a way that makes him look impractical. I'm like, what's
Mhm.
impractical is that you think you should control the narrative of who he's going to be and what he wants to do with money and what he wants to represent for his life. That's ridiculous. And they try to do the same thing to anybody in boxing who they felt was a cultural
Yeah.
representative. But you didn't see anybody asking Rocky Marciano to ease off all the restaurants, Playboy.
Right.
Why you got so many restaurants?
Right.
Like nobody was
Right.
saying
No,
that
it's-
shit. Nobody was like, hey,
There's
you know?
so many opinions. It's oversaturated with opinions that
And it's divisive
yeah,
opinions.
it's
not
sometimes
productive.
divided, or it makes us look down more at the person. We
Right.
have so much access that makes us look down on the person, unbelievably. You know,
Yeah.
I think that they're back then they were like, oh my goodness, like they were unhuman almost because we didn't have that access that we do now.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's a great point. Access.
You know, Michael Jackson, you never saw him except on the award shows and the few times he would come
Yep.
outside and people would lose their minds because you never saw him. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Now we're friends with them on Facebook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're on their Instagram. We see
Isn't
them
that
every
so
single day.
deceptive too? Like you're like 28 billion followers. I better put a like on this.
That stuff is I never believe it, honestly.
Yeah.
Or I think it's it's usually somebody else.
Right.
You know what I
They
mean?
say that. They'll
Like, if
talk
it's
about it
like
in
a,
interviews
Yeah,
all
they
the time.
they
They have
usually
other
say,
people
yeah.
using
Yeah,
social
yeah.
media.
Or
Like-
either they do it themselves and people give them stuff to post. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, ghostwriter. I
Yeah.
didn't realize how many comedians were having other comedians
yeah,
write their
they
Twitter.
write their Twitter for them.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
I was
no, that's exactly
blown
what I'm talking
away.
about. Like they make you feel like you are friends with
Just,
The Rock.
just
on
so you know, if
Instagram.
anybody wants to do my tattoos and you're real good, just hit me up on Instagram.
I mean, that is the way to contact you since you don't have a Facebook. You gotta
Yeah,
hit them
yeah.
up on Instagram.
I don't mess. You
And
know
the-
what? Like I feel like I feel like Facebook is such a place for a different kind of communication, and it's not all negative. It was for a little while, but for
Mhm.
me, I'm just not trying to have a long format conversation about art because I feel like, look, it's either powerful when you see it or it's not, and you could
Yeah.
scroll past. I don't. So many people got an opinion on how I live my life and the things that I say.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, in this format, it's extremely limited. You got to hit me up in a private way to discuss that. And you don't want to do that. You're not trying to do that.
Man, you
You-
know, last week we talked about something about Facebook. People are losing friendships over fucking Facebook.
over
Yeah.
opinions
People
on
over
Facebook.
opinions, over people opinions. You get so mad that it's gonna mess up business
Yeah.
deals for you. It's gonna mess up all type deals because you got so upset over someone
Got in your
else's
feelings, yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
Instead of just talking with them, hey, we can agree to disagree.
Well, and
No,
also
no, man,
realizing that context of where their opinion comes from. I think people just don't look at the reality of like, you know, whatever the consequences, this person in consequence of the thing they're talking about, then why the fuck you care about their opinion? If they're not in consequence, I'm not trying to hear them. If this
Man.
doesn't affect you, then I don't really give a fuck
Why
what
does-
your
why does
opinion
my
could be
opinion
about
matter?
it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like
It's weird, dude.
it's weird to me how many people think they need a say in some stuff. It's like, you know, like I don't care about what kind of motor oil you use if you got an electric fucking car, asshole.
Yeah.
I
They just-
mean,
they love to talk, but they ain't saying anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's 100%.
People
It's an
have
echo chamber. They want to be in the echo chamber.
that's what people do. That's what people do. They speak their mind. That's what
Yep.
opinion. That's what they
Yeah.
do. We all do. We all
Yeah.
say what we think, what we feel about things. And to me, it's just about what is it worth? What's worth saying fuck you over? If
Yeah.
you know,
Right,
if it's
right.
not racism, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, is not nothing too much that I would say
Half the
fuck you
time
over.
nowadays, man, like if
Yeah.
it's on Facebook, I don't even type it. When I get to that point, I'll be like, man, fuck
Yeah.
you know what?
I know exactly what you mean. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
engage in this for the next
Yeah,
3 hours
that's
over
real.
this really
Yeah.
this dude's remedial look at something
Right.
that has zero effect on his
And
life.
that's
You're
real.
not changed.
It's so
Yeah.
dumb.
Yeah. I always
Yeah,
tell
that's
people,
it.
like, whenever they'll ask me, I'm like, how much has your life changed? Because you're not focusing on the most important thing, and that's your experience of what's happening. And, like, not to say don't be a champion for the underprivileged or the people who can't speak for themselves, but make sure when you're doing that you're in service of the community that you represent and yourself and your peers, and make sure that that's who you're in service of and not another echo chamber. You don't
Mhm.
need anybody to agree with you.
And that's
That's
how most
foolish.
people are, just echo chambers.
Yeah, I think
They
so.
want to hang around a whole bunch of people that agree with them.
Yeah.
And if anyone disagrees, then oh my goodness, get him
Yep.
out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I like to have people change my mind, because when you have a new perspective and somebody truly shows you something that you weren't really thinking of and that you hadn't really conceptualized, I mean, that's just, it takes away the monotony of your regular life, because then you have these new avenues
Mhm.
to travel with practicality and be like, oh, I truly understand this and I see it,
Mhm.
And art is like that for me, because there's lots of stuff that I love as art, but I hate as tattoos. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And people will be like, what? How could you love, Rydell, but you don't like surrealism? And I'm like, well, I love surrealism on canvas.
right, it
Where,
doesn't look
Right.
good on the body.
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, everybody have their own opinion, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Definitively.
We just got to come to a point to where we can understand that
And you don't need
your
to be
opinion
right.
is your opinion. Yeah, that's what I was
Right.
gonna say. Like
Yeah.
you don't got to be right. Your
Right.
opinion is your
And
opinion. It's
why?
just
I don't get it, bro.
it's just what's the easiest way to say it? Like your opinion is just something that you thought of. It's not law. It's just
Right.
a way. It's usually opinion more than likely is an emotional
Right.
expression.
Right.
Mhm.
So emotions are not law.
No. Well,
You
and
know what I
they're
mean? It's just
rooted in
what
something else too. All your emotions come from life experience. When
Right.
there's certain things that I can say to you that'll never have you read, and there's other stuff that a passerby could hear me say to you and it'll have them read.
Right.
yeah.
And it's because their life experience is not the same as
Mhm.
ours, and they don't share our friendship or our bond, so that's not the same. And I have that conversation a lot when people will be like, I feel like I'm oversharing with you for tattooing, and I'm like, you're not oversharing with me. I've heard
Right.
if you were oversharing, I'll let you know.
Right.
You'll
Right.
tell in my facial expressions that you've overshared.
Yeah, I remember younger days where I was more kind of not as accepting of sexuality. I used to go get my hair
Yeah.
done by this gay guy downtown,
Mhm.
and every weekend, or not every weekend, but whenever I would go, we would kind of talk about each other's weekend. And every time he'd be like, "Yeah, man, and I got this guy to my house, and we had some wine, and I'm like, "Yep, you don't need to finish it. You have fun, cool. All right, next story."
I'm on the other end. I'm like, which one of you got the messy hair? Don't lie to
Right?
me.
Whose face was in the pillow?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Absolutely not. I don't even want to hear about that with women, man.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys. I never like locker room talk.
Oh,
Like, I
yeah?
just
Yeah.
don't. I don't even care who it is. I don't want to hear about.
I think
your
I've always been in like
sexcapades.
a
I'm weird.
surly environment. So I like
Yeah.
I'm not phased by a lot
A
of that.
military type
Yeah.
environment. Yeah.
Yep. A bunch of bachelor dudes
Right.
and lesbian girls just
Yeah.
saying real shit. And too, like, it's
But
not
this happened-
sexy to me either.
happened when
It's allegorical. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not sexy. I'm not like over here like, putting that in the spank bank. It's a good deposit. No. I'm like, I'll tell people will tell me, like, what's the craziest shit you ever heard? And I love it. And they're like, oh, sit the fuck down. Sit the fuck down. We're getting into it, But yeah, like, I see it. Mo Lady's kind of like that. She's a non-kiss and tell person.
Mhm. That's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do
I mean,
all
you
the
gotta have
crazy.
your
I want to
you
tell anyone.
gotta have
shit.
your balance, though. You know what I mean? If everybody was completely out like that, could you imagine how the world would be? Like,
No.
people are going crazy out off of.
But that's probably China. Everybody's docile. I don't want to say shit.
I mean, I usually keep my stuff on. I'm not putting myself out there, but
Yeah.
I've had conversations with some friends and stuff like
I
that.
think it's because the generation we grew up into is like really puritanical. We don't like to admit it that way, but even like the inception of hip hop from the gangster level that we grew up with, the '94 to the
Mhm.
2001, it's really puritanical. It's very biblically structured. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, it's okay to be a vicious man, but it's not okay to be a sympathetic or a soft man. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think like I was lucky. Like my stepdad grew up in the 60s and 70s in Watts, and he really like put me hip to like, you can't regurgitate their stuff because that's not who you are. You're not. I wanted to be religious real bad when I was younger, and he was like, look, all the weird that you are is never like
Like,
he let me have
you're
a
gonna have a
voice.
stressful life, kid,
Yeah,
if you
he's like,
want to
well,
be
you're gonna keep
you
up
and
with
you
the
want to be
wrong
religious.
Jones. Yeah, if you're gonna be you and you want to be religious, that's a tough one, you know. And I found spirituality because he was like a Buddhist, and he like knew he knew he was like, man, you're too weird and queer, just you're a strange one, you know what I mean? Like, and I love that. I mean, dude, that's man, what a special time that we get to live in because people just have a narrative that they never have. I see people being represented in media that I never saw growing up. I just didn't see it. And I
That's
think
real.
it's such a cool time, you know. You're like, wow, that's a story I never heard.
That's
I
real.
never heard like the true Indian American story. I
Mhm.
never heard that
Mhm.
story until recent
Yep.
years, you know. I never heard the story of like trans. The band that I'm
Mhm.
wearing right now, Snailmate, their drummer is a trans, and I never was exposed to any of that when I was a kid. Like I knew we
Mhm.
would say like we would use the word transvestite, which is like a taboo word, and that meant cross dresser and stuff like that. And like we,
Right.
it was so infantile and so taboo when we were young. You couldn't say or talk or any of that type of
Yeah.
stuff in fear of retribution to yourself. Now people say things
Yeah.
and they talk in a way that's like I feel like this is the true freedom of speech. And even if it's
Yeah.
not what you want to hear, that's the beauty of it. There's people like us who are talking. There's people in every facet of life who are talking. So whatever you want to narrate your story, whatever you
Mhm.
want to hear, it's they're out there.
It's still a
This is
fight though.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We still got
Yeah.
fascists out here.
dude.
Oh, yeah.
We still got
Man.
idiots out here.
Yeah,
They're
for
trying to
sure.
ban critical race theory.
Oh,
They're
God.
trying to ban anything that has to do with transsexuals.
Yeah.
When I mean there are still people that want to ban people and act like they don't exist.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
and
I
people
mean,
don't
it's
understand
ridiculous.
the long history of all this stuff. You know, you're talking about, you know, for the trans community, this is something that's colonial. As long as you've had
Yeah.
rich people, you've had people of that type of
As long
decadence.
as you've had people.
Yeah,
You've
yeah,
had
yeah,
people
man.
who've
yeah.
been interested in other
But I guess I
sexualities
meant
cross
and
dressers
expressing
forever, and
them.
we've had everything.
yeah, I guess I
I
meant
mean,
more
well,
in the
no,
entertainment aspect
I
of
don't
it.
wanna
But
say
yeah, I get what you mean too. Like yeah,
well, ever since you had maybe I should say civilized people.
yeah,
Civilish
Yeah,
people.
yeah, right.
You know,
right.
there's always been ever since it's been put on our minds that we
Mhm.
need to be a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
There's always been pushback on it.
Right.
Because
Right.
I guarantee if there's any people who know their history can go back to before we were civilized beings. I
Mhm.
bet you there was tons of incest and homosexuality
Oh,
and stuff. I mean, look
these
at
people
Yeah,
animals.
think
We
I
lived
don't
as
put
animals.
incest and
Yeah.
homosexuality in the same thing because I think one
Well, no, I mean,
implies
I'm not
fucking
trying
up
to
your
say
genetic
I'm
people
not
did
saying
genetics.
incest on
It's not
purpose.
healthy. Yeah. I think people make that connection sometimes, and I think it's a really bad connection. I think, you know, um, there's things that are of nature, and you just have to understand that they're of nature. You know what I mean? And there's things that you have to understand that they fight nature, that they literally create hindrance. You know what I mean? Like people make a argument, well, there's sexuality and sexuality sense, but if you're being incestuous, you're actually creating a genetic hindrance, and that's different. That's completely, I believe, different. Whenever you're imbibing a homosexuality, you're actually taking your genetic code out of the situation. You're not having babies with your genetic code
Right.
in that way. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I did always I feel like there's a lot of like weird stuff, especially in the red arena where they're like trying to associate like pedophiles and incest with that because it has sexual context. I'm like, yeah, but you're talking about something where there's a obvious victim.
Right.
You're talking about somebody
Mhm.
being
These
hurt.
people they decide to do this.
Right,
This is
right.
how they want to be.
Yeah.
But it's not always incestuous, not always victims either, because sometimes, cousins fall in love. So it's it's
Yeah, but if you're having kids, there's a victim. You know, and I guess that's
I
my
mean, is
my
it
pull
really?
away on it is
And,
that
I mean,
if,
I'm not trying to say incest is right, but
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
if you look
I
through
wanted
the
to put that out
history,
there too.
if you
Like
look
we're
at
not
the
trying to
history
say
of
by any means
America,
that incest is right.
if
Yeah.
you look, I mean, that's
But-
up to people. But if you look at the history through America, it was a lot of incest going on.
Yeah,
especially with the Spanish,
And-
European Spanish who came here. They didn't want to have sex with the natives, so
Yeah.
they
So
were
incest,
having
yeah.
a lot of incest.
and that's kind of where a lot of people don't want to think about it and admit it, but that's pretty much probably where the stem of it comes from. It was probably, at least in the civilized world, the stem of it comes from trying to keep the
a
bloodline
lot of racism.
the same.
Yeah.
Pure. Oh
Like,
yeah,
kinda
yeah.
keep the
You look at
bloodline pure.
English.
You know
The
what I mean?
English, the Isles of England are so messed up. You
Right.
look at the just the teeth, the structure of people. It's an unhealthy group of people, and it's because of that puritanical sense of being scared of. I think I think the true way to unity is to understand that our cultures are all going to meet. They will
Mhm.
all advance
4
into
minutes,
each
man.
other.
Everything's gonna end up
You got
mixed up.
4.
4 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But yeah, everything's gonna eventually come into one. Like, everyone's gonna
Yeah,
be
I'm all for
everyone,
sepias.
like, I would say, I'm just throwing a number out there, but over 50% of the population is probably already mixed somehow.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's
in the
gonna get
world,
more
on
and
the world
more
level.
and more
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You know?
and beautifully so too. I think, in my
Hell
personal
yeah.
opinion, I think that's the future of things is equality, and the future of equality is community. You know, you want to
Mhm.
be together. You should find less things that separate you in humanity.
That's
You
real.
know,
That's real.
So we are getting kind of close to time, but before we wrap it up, I want to make sure Johnny has enough time to give you guys some information on if you want to contact him, if you want to
Yeah.
book any tattoo sessions with him or anything like
Yeah,
that.
you can reach out to me at Guantanamo Bay _ on Instagram. Send me a DM, add me, follow me, whatever they're calling it now. You can check. I got reels and stuff, kind of funny stuff every once in a while. I try and keep it light and interesting.
Yep.
But yeah, and then
Oh, and then
the shop too. You can reach out to me at Oming Gallery.
Johnny
they-
is going to be my third alternating co-host, and he also does do music, but we'll
Yeah.
have to talk about that next time,
Yeah,
'cause
we'll
we are
do it,
running
yeah.
short on time. But I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
what were you going to say,
I
Patrick?
was gonna say, so if they go to the shop, do they book an appointment? Do you accept
Yeah,
walk-ins?
I try and keep it as old school as possible. I try and do walk-ins whenever I have a chance. It's always best to call and see if I have availability for walk-ins, but I'll stay late for you. We close at 7 and 8, depending on the day. But I'll always, if it's something, you know, especially if it's hand painted flash or something that's already ready to go, I'll always stay late and do something and work out with you.
And what time do you start?
I start at noon. I generally
Okay.
take my first appointment at 1, but I take consultation. The reason I'm there that extra hour is because I take consultation through that whole first hour and answer phones and try and get back to everybody. That's like my clerical hour. But yeah,
You have blockout days?
what do you mean? Like days that I don't work?
Yeah.
Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday are my weekends, so I'll generally be at Dreadnought Comics or some pinball arcade on those days.
Okay.
Yeah. Shout out to also other local stuff. I just want to be like TCB Brewery. They're big. I love them so much. They're super good people. Player One Arcade out in Surprise, trying to give Surprise some place to take their youth,
Yeah,
you know.
man.
And you know, all the local bands, Simple Malfunction, who's been corroborators with my whole mess since you know the last 8
Musical
years ago.
mess.
Yeah, always been in the mix of things. Jeremy Daniels at Cosmic Soup too. All local people, man. Go local, go hard. Get
Local.
yeah, Denizen Farms. Get everything you can right here in Arizona when you
Yeah.
can. Mess with local music. Mess with local eateries. You know what I mean? Get
We'll
local
have to
dishes.
get some of these local people. That's another reason why I wanted to bring you on as well, because I know you got a nice connection with the local businesses and stuff like that.
And you got to do some CrossFit. We got to get Tyler. You got to go do Tyler's podcast and have him come do your podcast. It's a totally different kind of podcast. He's gonna get you drunk.
Jess, you're gonna have to pick me up from the podcast.
There's gonna be a rice wine over here in his kimono.
Whatever's clever.
Yeah.
I'm down though. Just remember, Jess, you're really
just
probably gonna have to
remember,
pick
you
me up
know,
if I'm getting
that
drunk.
I tell everybody, you know, keep that mentality. Remember, keep your dollar in your community. That, you know, independent.
Yes.
You know, we learned that at Black Wall Street. They taught us that. Keep your dollar right here,
Right
right
here.
where
That's
your
real,
people are.
That's real.
Yep. Well, I believe we're gonna wrap it up for the day. That is episode number 5. We're getting up there. Soon enough, we'll be in the double digits. I want to give a round of applause for my guest, Mr. Johnny.
Yay!
And I'm gonna keep it going. Another applause for my co-host, Mr. Patrick. And then we're going to get one more going for engineer extraordinaire hats of mini, Mr. Dip to the lean.
Thank you. Appreciate coming in.
And actually, I lied. We're going to do one more. Bam. And that's for you guys for tuning in and spending some time with us on episode 5. And that is going to wrap it up for today. Peace.
That was awesome.